So, hey everybody, welcome back to Tulsa Titans. I am really excited to this almost evening to have Betsy Kulakowski, who's the executive director of the Oklahoma Safety Council, on. Betsy, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. So, just to start, for anyone who doesn't know you in either Tulsa or Oklahoma City, maybe you could just introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Betsy Kulakowski. I'm the executive director of the Oklahoma Safety Council. I have been a safety and health professional for the last 30 plus years. I won't age myself too bad, but I started really young. I started my career at the Oklahoma Department of Labor at the age of 18. And I worked in a number of different jobs. I started out as a temp worker doing asbestos abatement licenses and worked my way up to asbestos inspector. And then I moved into the OSHA consultation division and worked with businesses on their safety and health management systems all across the state. Moved in later to the PIOSH division, which is the public enforcement division. It's kind of like OSHA for city, county, state, public schools, colleges. And I did that for a number of years. And my goal had always been when I retired from the state, I wanted to go work for the Oklahoma Safety Council and be a trainer because training was something I was really passionate about. I loved doing it. Every opportunity I got to teach a class, I would take it because I really like helping employers learn, what they could do better, how to use the data that they collect to improve their safety and health management system, how to improve their culture and things like that. So that was kind of my goal was I want to come work at the safety council as a trainer because it was kind of my retirement plan, which, the best laid plans of mice and men don't always go the way we expect. And I got a phone call about 2 years shy of my retirement from the safety council saying, hey, we have a training manager position open and we really think you'd be perfect for the job. Would you be interested? And I'm like, well, I've got 2 years until I can retire. And he's like, well, the job's now. So let's talk. So we talked and it was a huge leap for me because I had been at the same job for the last, almost 28 years. And I think the day that I turned in my notice that I was leaving was like, I think I had a panic attack in the middle of it. I really wasn't prepared for that. And I was leaving people that I had considered my family. My supervisor had been with her for 26 years. And it was just really hard to walk away from that. But it was one of those things that it was moving into something bigger. And I knew I couldn't be scared. I had to be brave and take that chance and take that opportunity. And I was the training and development manager here for 3 years when our executive director retired. And so I applied for the position, knowing it was going to be a really hard thing to have to go through the whole interview process again. They had, I think somebody told me there was like a couple hundred applicants that they had to, go through and weed out. And I think a dozen, maybe half a dozen people they interviewed. So I was the one that they chose, and I have never regretted it. I love what we do here at the Safety Council. We teach workplace safety and health. We teach defensive driving. We teach teen driver safety. It's very mission driven because we want people to go home whole and healthy at the end of every day and have a safe home to go to. So there's, it's kind of a multifaceted approach, and it's given me the opportunity to reach more people, save more lives indirectly, if not directly. It's just part of the mission and part of the passion that I have for what we do here at the Safety
Yeah, that's
Council.
awesome. And I'm curious, in your time working in this field broadly, obviously you've seen a
Mhm.
couple decades, and how are things changing? Or are we generally getting safer in Oklahoma, or are you seeing the opposite? Like, I know that there's some topics in vogue right now. Like, how do you sort of think about just the trend?
Right. So some of the trends that we're seeing when I first started in my career, we're still seeing, unfortunately. Um, we're also recognizing new hazards that we really didn't notice before or didn't really think about as being a workplace issue, like roadway safety. But if you think about it, the most dangerous thing any of us do every day is drive to work. Crashes are the leading cause of workplace fatalities. But to this day, OSHA still says that it's falls from construction because it's how they track their data. They don't collect information on the commute to and from work or the commute to and from the job site because it's considered a roadway issue and it's covered by another government agency. So that was kind of eye opening for me as a safety professional because I'd always focused on the workplace. Once I started to kind of broaden my horizons and started to see, hey, we've got some more work to do over here, that was a big aha moment for me. So I see that I see that we're evolving in that we're becoming aware of the bigger picture. Industrial hygiene is another area where employers tend to not pay attention because it's not something necessarily you can see. It's a vapor or a chemical or a contaminant. And they don't think about the hazards that could come with that, especially if they mix. So, I've seen a lot of changes as a woman in the workplace because when I first started, I'm 18 years old and I work in a field with men, and I was a compliance inspector in the asbestos division. And I didn't always get treated the way I felt like I should be treated, but I don't see that as being so much as of an issue. And maybe it's just my approach to it is I don't let it be an issue. So, I think that may have something to do with it. And I'm really active in our Women in Safety Excellence program, which is a division of the ASSP chapter. So, I try to help young women the way somebody helped me when I was
Mhm.
young. So I see that we've come a long way, but we still have a long way
Mhm.
to go.
And how is your journey? Obviously, you're an expert at safety. Like something like asbestos, you probably know more about than anyone on earth. But you've also gradually become a people leader. You're making decisions and budget decisions and strategy decisions and communication decisions. And what's that journey been like? Do you think that progression was just kind of natural for you to first become a technical expert and then gradually become a leader? Or do you see other ways it could have been done?
Oh yeah, I definitely see that as a progression. I had always kind of felt like I was leading from the middle. I never was in management until right there at the end at the Department of Labor. But I was on the safety committee. I would be involved in conversations on our safety in the field. Provide input and feedback. And now, as a leader in the position I'm in now, I'm also responsible for our safety and health here at the Safety Council. Our employees look to me to make sure that we have everything that we need to do, and I'm really lucky that I work with safety professionals, but I also work with people who are not safety professionals that we forget we have to train too. So it's one of those is like, oh, there's another aha moment for me. It's like, okay, I can't assume. I have to go back and go back to the basics sometimes. And you learn and you grow. And sometimes you get a reminder that, hey, back up, take a step back. And that's okay too, because that's another way to
Mhm.
learn and grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess another question I'd have for you is as you think about really stepping into an executive director role, like you said, which was a sounds like a very big honor to be chosen for, what
Mhm.
was that like to really try to step into an existing organization that you respected and
Mhm.
find this balance between setting a new strategy or direction and sticking with kind of the old and what's already working? Or how do you balance that tension as a new leader?
Yeah, that's been especially challenging because I stepped into this role July 1 of
Mhm.
2019 when the world was normal. And then we had COVID. Now, I think if anything, I had to my advantage the fact that I have a degree in emergency management. I've worked a number of disasters from the Murrah bombing to the World Trade Center to Hurricane Katrina. And I had gone through and worked on our disaster preparedness plan, our disaster response plan, our mitigation plan. I had those 4 phases of emergency management already. I'd already drafted out what that should look like before anything ever really happened. So when it occurred, I felt like we were better prepared to get through the pandemic. It wasn't easy. It was certainly a challenge. And it was like, okay, well, I didn't realize I was going to use this much of my degree in emergency management, but I'm sure glad I have it. We were able to work with our member companies to provide them with the resources that they need to prepare and respond to those kind of events. We did have to shut down for a little while, but we were able to pivot really quickly. We had just signed up for this new thing that we'd never heard of before called
Mhm.
Zoom. So it was about being creative and learning those lessons really early, being ready to pivot. I think we're all kind of tired of that word, but I've pivoted a lot lately. I get a little dizzy pivoting, but that's one of the things you do though as a leader is you have to anticipate what could happen and work your way through that. So that was the biggest challenge for me was to all of a sudden be in this position and not ever have a normal for about 2 years, and I still don't know that we really have a normal. So there's still some challenges there. We're still pivoting from time to time, and it's kind of become the
Mhm.
norm. So I think if anybody could do it, I'm kind of glad I have that degree to back me up on
Yeah,
that.
and I think we can all be grateful there's people like you that know because COVID certainly rocked so many businesses. And it just gives you an appreciation for the equilibrium is not always the same. Like you kind of take for granted safety and health, and it's one of those cliche things of You
Mhm.
don't realize you could die in a car accident or have something fall on you, um, like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, like it
Yeah. Oh, for
could be
sure,
like
for
very
sure.
quick. So another question I have for you is, when you think about, obviously, like a lot of this audience is business people. When you think about the basic things you'd want every single business leader in Oklahoma, if there was three things of
Mhm.
like, just do these, like obviously they need to do everything to be compliant, but start with these three. What would be
Right.
the three things you'd really harp
Yes.
on?
One of the things that we did when I worked in the consultation program over at the Department of Labor was there was a study that was done, and they looked at 58 attributes of an effective safety and health management system to see which of those attributes would give an employer the biggest bang for
Mhm.
their buck. And the number one thing that they could do was
Mhm.
housekeeping, preventative maintenance, and supervisor and manager training. Those were the
Mm.
top three. Of all those 58 attributes, those were the three that the top performing companies scored very
Mm.
well in. And so that was something that I always worked with business leaders when I'd go out and talk to them about their safety and health management system. I always talk about you have to set the example. You're the leader. Nobody's going to follow if you don't lead. So you have to set the example. You have to be the one to put on your safety glasses. You have to be the one to say, wait, let's get a ladder instead of climbing on a chair. You can't be the one out creating the hazards because your employees see that. So can't just walk, talk the talk. You've got to walk the walk as well. So and then the housekeeping, the preventative maintenance programs, and those are things that cost money. The supervisor and manager training, those things cost
Mhm.
money, but you have to have money to make money. And that's something my father taught me when I was very young, because he was really big into investing and things like that. You have to have money to make money. So um, it's just part of the duties that you have as an employer. You have a duty to provide a safe and healthful workplace,
Mhm.
and it can start very simply, and it's just taking small steps. You can't do it all at one time. We talk about eating an elephant one bite at a time, and that's how it is with
Mhm.
safety as
Yeah,
well.
it's a great perspective. You have to find those high ROI ways to start. And now this is maybe an interesting question you don't get asked often, but you see so many crazy things all the time, which would probably tempt someone to become very negative about life. And it
Mhm.
seems like you've been able to maintain a very positive, like impact focused outlook when you're really ingesting some really terrible things. So a lot of people are
Yeah.
complaining right now how terrible things are, and you don't want to downplay that, but you seem like you're able to overcome the things you have to see or experience or hear about, and it doesn't
Mhm.
phase you. Do you have advice on mental toughness for other people?
Oh, yeah, and that's a challenge all the time. It's something that I truly believe is my biggest challenge is just my mental
Mhm.
fortitude, and I think it begins with your attitude. I have an attitude that we're always going to work together. We're going to get through this. Um, you might have a bad day, but it's just
Mhm.
a day, and it'll be over before you know it. And if you can make it just a minute, don't let it be the whole day. Cry, have your pity party, whatever you need to do, but get over yourself and move on, because there are other people that are relying on you to set that example, to be the leader, and they need to see you being positive. With my kids, with my employees, I want them to see what I want to see in them, and sometimes that's a challenge. They don't always follow where you lead, but that's part of just your own mental sanity. Is you've got to do what you've got to do to get through the day and not let it eat
Mhm.
you alive.
Yeah, I think, like you said, it starts with attitude, because we really do choose our
Hmm.
attitude regardless of how good or bad. Now, my last question for you is, as you think back at your career, and I know you're also an author, which we didn't touch on too much, but you've had a couple interesting threads as well. And you look at kind of what you've accomplished, like you still are in a position of a lot of influence, both on that personal project or professionally. And I'm curious, how do
Hmm.
you think about the impact you still want to leave? I feel like so much of these types of interviews are about what you've done in the past. What do you still like want to be true of you?
I'm very goal oriented. I will write down a goal if there's something I want to achieve, and it's never failed me, because every goal I've ever written down and wrote on my heart, I've been able to achieve. And becoming executive director was one of those things. Getting a book published, I've been writing since I was 6 years old, and I've always wanted to publish a book. And now I have a very successful book series that's fiction, that's completely unrelated to what I do, but that's also kind of my mental fortitude, because I can escape to my own little world that
Mhm.
I've created. But I still have plenty of years to work. I still have that mission to help people live a safer life. to create new leaders. I think that's a job of any leader, is to create new leaders. And I'm always looking for who I can mentor, who I can help along the way, who can offer hand up to, whether that's personally or professionally. So I do a lot of coaching. I do a lot of um, mentoring. I'm always looking for who I can help next. And that has, every time I've changed jobs, my question to myself is this going to get me closer to helping more people and making sure more people go home safely at the end of the day?
Yeah, and it's a really meaningful mission because it's so much bigger than just yourself. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. We're excited to publish this and certainly